Welcome back to Tri-City Sports Now. I'm your host, Marky Billson. 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. By the way, you're driving down the interstate, you're driving down, 81. By the way, Temple Hill Road, if you can possibly avoid it, right where, what is the road? Jackson Love Highway, right there. They're repaving it. That's why we actually played a couple of commercials to start the show. I was like, I've got to get to work, sir. And well, we've got to wait for us and all this. And so there you have it. They're repaving the road in which the radio station is on. So the Providence Steamroller and everything coming out there. There's a, by the way, historic sports reference. The Providence Steamroller. There you go. Right up there with the Canton Bulldogs and so on. They also were an arena football team. Early days of arena football, the Providence Steamroller. All right. Was mentioning a little bit about Phil Fulmer and his hire of Kelly Harper. You know, I've said this. I think they're, trying to save bucks. And I don't think that bodes well for the Lady Vols. And I think they've been trying to save bucks ever since Pat Summitt died. Or shall I say, stepped away. But, it speaks volumes to me when you're not hiring, and again, I'm thinking Pat Summitt's got to be rolling over in her grave when they're not paying the Lady Vols basketball coach a salary equal to her peers. But, hey, offensive coordinator comes in. Let's make him the highest paid offensive coordinator in history. Yeah, let's do that. Now, again, as I said in the first segment, I think most Tennessee fans would just be fine with that. You know what I mean? All right, here's the deal. I've got this magic wand, but it's a little bit snarky. And so the Lady Vols, let's say they have 10 straight losing seasons, but on the gridiron this year, the Vols will make the, college football playoff. Shall I wave the magic wand? I think that the vast majority of Tennessee fans would please wave it. Absolutely. No question about it. And it goes back to what Gene Enley said on this show about 2 weeks ago, and it was when Holly Warlick was getting the axe. Tennessee fans don't like Holly Warlick. Lady Vols fans like Holly Warlick. They understand her legacy. They understand what she has to overcome, all this sort of stuff. Then you go and you have, but it's, like I said, you've got not a Lady Vols person in the AD chair. You've got, the guy who says, obviously, my job here is to fix football. Well, the Vols won't go undefeated this year, but who will? Brad Crawford has some ideas on that. And he points these teams that could possibly go undefeated and therefore winning the national title. Crawford writes for 24/7. The first one that he mentions, I'm really surprised about because you kind of thought that the Michigan Wolverines were not necessarily the, tomorrow's program. Michigan turning out the football players they used to. It seems like it's Ohio State's conference. And you just don't know what to, Jim Harbaugh, the man who gave us Colin Kaepernick. Boy, yeah, there's a guy that I want to coach my football team. Schedule they speak of, though, they say toughest games versus Army. I know Army was nationally ranked last year and gave Oklahoma all they could handle, but yeah. At Wisconsin. At Penn State, which doesn't figure to be as good as they were last year. Notre Dame at home. Michigan State, but at home. Ohio State, but at home. That's his feeling right there. All right. And he says, Michigan's probably the least likely team to go undefeated of this list. But let's put them down. Next up, Notre Dame. All right, the SEC bias was they didn't belong. And then the ACC basically destroyed the SEC in the national title game. Remember that? But Notre Dame, although they always like to say that they play this really tough schedule, Yeah, their toughest games, they've got at Georgia. Okay, that ought to be a loss. At Michigan, at Stanford. Stanford's a very fine football program these days, one of the winningest programs of the decade. But then, wait a minute, here we go. At Louisville, New Mexico at home, hosting Virginia, hosting Bowling Green, Southern California. Well, they get them in South Bend. Virginia Tech, they get them in South Bend. At Duke, I guess Duke beat them a few years ago. The old game with Navy, that one's in South Bend. And then the old game with Boston College. I'd like to see Boston College, Miami, and Pitt on the schedule a little more, and Virginia on there a little less for Notre Dame. And Georgia Tech, I would say, also one of those historic rivals and all that. And really even, although, yeah, I guess it's nice that Notre Dame, local school, Virginia Tech, that they play as much as any. Just, that's not a thing. You know, Clemson for Notre Dame really isn't a thing. Come on. But the idea is don't overlook the Irish again. Other teams could go on to Texas. Well, you know, that hurts. 2 years ago, as mentioned, Texas made the most money of any college football team, and Tennessee was number 2. People are saying, yeah, maybe Texas can go undefeated. And then people are saying, if they're most optimistic, maybe the Vols can go 8-4. You know, 7-5, probably more likely. Ohio State, yeah, I think we can always be in the mode that Ohio State is probably going to be a team that could go undefeated. They've got the biggest budget. They got to go to Nebraska, so what? They got to host Michigan State, so what? They got to go to Northwestern, really? Wisconsin, Penn State, who they always beat, and then go to Michigan. So, yeah, you kind of get the idea, okay, undefeated until the Michigan game. You know, who else they got on the schedule? Florida Atlantic, Cincinnati. Ohio State legislature really mandates that Ohio State play another Ohio team. And since the Big Ten won't let them play FCS teams like Youngstown State anymore, it becomes Cincinnati or a MAC team more times than not, by the way. Indiana, Miami, Maryland, and Rutgers. Yeah, that beats still my heart. They ought to win all those games. I'll tell you more who could go undefeated in college football when we return.
Loss is the third most